Holy, here we go again, Batman.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Scott Niswander. You're listening to the NerdSync Podcast, and today we're doing an X-Men Days of Future Past spoiler cast because you guys requested it, and we are obeying your every command because you are awesome. There will be spoilers, though, obviously. You have been warned. Plenty of spoilers beyond this point. Literally this point. I'm about to talk about spoilers right now. That was an exaggeration. I'm not actually going to talk about spoilers right now, but soon I will. In studio, we have Chris, who wants nothing more than for Rogue to go around making out with people in X-Men movies, because that's what she does in video games. You'll hear more about that coming up. And also, we have Bryce over Skype, who edits these podcasts, so thank you to him for doing that. He's doing an awesome job. And he also had this crazy idea, this awesome epiphany of sorts, where he sees X-Men Days of Future Past having the ramifications that it does in the future of X-Men so that Jean Grey survives, where we see here at the end of the movie. He has a really great theory about that, so stick around for that as well. And we'll see you right here at the end of the show with more stuff that I'm going to talk to you about. But right now, let's get right on with it. Remember, spoilers ahead. So we're going to talk about X-Men Days of Future Past today. I'm Scott.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Bryce.
And right off the bat, Bryce said you wanted to start with something.
I do want to start with something, and I just want to make sure I wasn't missing something. I'm not absolutely crazy, but this takes place right after X-Men 3, right? Or shortly after.
Yes, and I feel like I know what you're going to say.
Did we not see the Professor get completely annihilated by Phoenix? He's
Bryce.
dead.
Yes, we did.
He is not even like... I don't even have words. He
they
doesn't
didn't
have
have
a body
anything to
anymore.
bury.
Yeah, exactly. There was nothing to bury. Well, do you remember the post-credit scene of X3? Did you watch the post-credit scene of X3?
Yeah, it was... No, now I forget.
No, it's where Professor X's consciousness comes back inside of a person's body who's in a coma. And there are a couple things in Days of Future Past that they don't explain inside the movie that I only know of because I've seen some interviews and stuff with the director, Bryan Singer. And I believe there's no official, at least to my knowledge, there's no official reason why Professor X is back. The thing that's being thrown around is the person's body that he jumped into was his like twin brother or something. So.
Actually, my thought behind that was Professor X is such a incredible mental and powerful being that he just came back just for the heck of it. He just happened to come back.
Rematerialized.
He thought, being dead is boring. Let's go back to being alive.
Well, if you think about it, the Phoenix Force, that power is not well defined in the first place. So, I mean, there's a margin of error there, kind of.
Yeah, so it destroyed his body, but not his consciousness?
Sort of.
Yeah, or it could have, like, pushed him into another dimension. I mean...
All right.
Don't let it destroy you. And then the Adventures of Professor X in another dimension.
I heard though that this movie was... because of how crazy Days of Future Past is, people are saying that it was kind of like a cop-out, so now they can go back and like do whatever they want.
Well, I mean, there's the other explanation that I heard was that he jumped into this person's body, and it wasn't a twin brother or anything like that. It was a person, just a regular guy, but then it had Professor X's consciousness, and then they used, I guess, Mystique's ability of transformation to make him, like Beast has some sort of weird cure that he takes again, because Beast is always whipping up something in these movies, and then he puts it inside that person, and now that guy looks like Professor X or something.
But why is he crippled again?
Either way, it doesn't make sense why he's crippled, right? Because if it's a twin brother who's just in a coma, he should, unless some crazy stroke of unluckiness, that's a word, where that guy also is paralyzed from the waist down. That would be the worst day for Professor X.
Well, you know what else I considered, though, is what if Days of Future Past is not the X-Men 3 timeline?
Yeah, okay.
See, I thought about that. Because comics have so many different story arcs.
And I hate it.
But I feel like the cinematic Marvel universe should follow one storyline.
That's what I'm saying, right? Follow one storyline, or explicitly state in the beginning, like when they're in the future, have something at the bottom that says possible future or something like that.
Yeah.
Not just the future or something, or the years. Have like, this is a possible outcome, and that's why this movie is happening, so we can try to prevent that. But don't immediately try to sell it to us as this is what's going to happen unless they do this.
Well, you know what's funny you should mention is in the beginning of X-Men 3, they actually have that holodeck battle versus the Sentinel.
Yep.
In the background.
Yeah.
They don't call it a Sentinel, but it does say in the not so far future. So how did they know what the Sentinels were if it didn't happen yet?
Well, I mean, and that the whole continuity of X-Men movies is really confusing to me, but this is another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the Sentinels get their start, I guess, in the 70s was Days of Future Past, 73, I think.
Yeah.
And is I think when the movie takes place, 73. And whatever, I'm pretty sure it says 1973.
It's during Nixon's presidency, so
I don't know. We'll say ish. Nixon's presidency ish. And which, oh my gosh, that's another thing I forgot to write down. JFK is a mutant? What?
Yeah.
What is his mutant power, guys?
I think that was just a tribute to him as kind of we like JFK, so we're going to put that in there. So maybe he didn't actually die, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, he could have some sort of like charismatic like power where he just draws people in.
The power of his voice.
Yeah.
That's actually a fairly plausible theory.
Yeah, I can dig that. I can dig that. But so it takes place in 1973-ish, and we see in this is something I was telling Chris. We see in X-Men 3, X-Men: The Last Stand. It starts in the year 1986, and it's already Professor X as Patrick Stewart. So there's a 13-year difference where it goes from James McAvoy to Patrick Stewart. So, and then the next movie takes place, Apocalypse is going to take place in the 80s. So
he's going to go bald.
He's going to go bald, and he's going to start looking like Patrick Stewart, which would be great.
That's not a fair criticism, though, because they didn't have that planned that far ahead.
But
when they made the movie, that's not a fair criticism.
That is criticism is a fair criticism, Chris.
That's like saying that none of the James Bond actors look alike, therefore the continuity is screwed up. It's not meant to be that way.
Well, yeah, but that's because the way that I see James Bond is it doesn't exist in one timeline, right? It doesn't exist in one universe. No, don't do this because you're wrong about this. James Bond, from the get-go, is explicitly not the same James Bond in every sort of a thing.
But they never say that. So
no,
how do you know that?
Because it is impossible. It is impossible that Sean Connery grows up to be Daniel Craig. I do not believe that.
It's entirely possible.
But I don't know. I feel like the timelines of these movies don't make a lot of sense to me because if they tell us that the Sentinels get their start in 1973, then I feel like we should have heard something about the Sentinels in the X-Men 1 and 2 and a little bit more than just a simulation in X-Men 3. I feel like if they were a big threat from the get-go, then we should have at least heard something about them, and they should have been some sort of threat in the other movies.
Well, that's why I'm saying, what if the Days of Future Past future happens in a different timeline? I would be okay with that, but tell me that. Like again, at the beginning,
explain it then.
Tell me this is not the future that we know from the other movies. Tell me that this is a possible future. Tell me this is an alternate thing. Don't have me coming into this thinking, oh, we're taking these characters that we know from the first X-Men movies, and this is just what happens later. Not this is just what happens in an alternate timeline. You know, I need to know that going into it.
I guess we'd have to map it out all on paper for it to make sense. You know?
Yeah, and this is exactly like Marvel's thing, where their continuity is so crazy and screwed up that I just wanted Days of Future Past to be a complete reboot of that universe, but it wasn't, right? Because at the end, they go back and they show all of the old cast members, like you have your Cyclops and you have your Jean Grey, and Patrick Stewart is still Professor X, and I was hoping that the movie would reboot the future so that they could be played by different actors just in case, you know, these same actors don't want to do it again. Or if they wanted to get more younger actors, if they want Cyclops back, but they want him to be set in the younger days, then they don't need to get That guy whose name I forget.
Well, my question is, how much did they pay those actors to show up for like 3 seconds at the end of the movie?
Well, actually, me and Scott already kind of touched on that before we started the podcast. We were rapping back and forth.
We were arguing loudly.
Yeah. Well, my argument is some things happen in the movies because the money behind the movie, the studio, not the creative talent. They say we need these people to appear for a certain amount of time, and believe it or not, these things are written out in an actor's contract. Like they have to appear a certain amount
in
of
so
time.
many movies.
Yeah, and that's why things like this happen, and it creates continuity errors, as well as just the advertisements for the movie. Like if you notice in any teaser poster for a modern day movie, all of the actors have to be there. You know, even if that character wears a mask, you got to show their face. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that we talked about with Mystique and Beast, how even though at the end of First Class, Mystique was saying, it was kind of accepting, I can be blue all the time and I shouldn't have to hide. And then she spends a lot of time as regular old Jennifer Lawrence because people are going to see this movie for Jennifer Lawrence, not for blue Jennifer Lawrence.
I know.
And for Beast as well, you know, you have Nicholas Hoult, who in the comic books, right, Beast is Beast all the time.
Yeah.
But they can't just sell that. They were like, oh, there are people who are fans of Nicholas Hoult, so we have to make it so he's human a lot, at least a little bit, to show his human face, because people aren't going to love the Beast face as much as they do the human face. So they had to come up with something for that as well.
I don't know, because I really like the Beast character, like older Beast. He's so witty, and it's hilarious.
He's witty and he's wise, and even though he got that, he just had that one little line at the end of the movie too.
That was Kelsey Grammer, by the way.
And I don't know. I like that character, but I felt like he's been underused. Beast.
Yeah, he really has, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, well, he creates this serum, right, in Days of Future Past, which make you not mutant for a very short amount of time. And I was like, this is how the movie's going to end, exactly how Last Stand ended. Where
right.
They're going to take the serum that turns you not into a mutant, and they're going to stab it into Magneto, and then that's it. End of thing. And I really thought that's where that was going, and I'm like, really? They're just reusing the same thing again?
Well, they made a very subtle nod to that, though. I don't know if you picked up on it when they were on the airplane, and Magneto, or Eric, I guess we should call him. He's less Magneto and more Eric in these movies, but he brought the chessboard to Professor X, and he showed him the chess pieces, and he moved like the same piece he moved before. I thought that was pretty cool. It's almost like they know that we're screwing you with these movies, but we like to make fun about it.
I mean, I just think you can't have a movie where Professor X and Magneto don't play chess, because I just love their little back and forth. Well, and also... go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of nods, I thought it was really funny. They did the little joke between Wolverine and Professor X when Wolverine shows up and he's like, Professor, we need you to help. And he's like, I'm going to tell you what you told me 12 years ago or something like that.
And he didn't even do it right.
Didn't even say the line right.
He didn't say it right. I was like, oh, man.
And I'm like, you are supposed to be a genius, man. Remember that.
Drunk.
He was... crazy. Yeah, when they said at the beginning, when Patrick Stewart was saying, I didn't have my powers in 73-ish, and I was like, why didn't he have his powers?
Yeah.
That's weird. And then the formula. And Beast stabbed himself in the leg at the end with 3 vials, which is what they stabbed Magneto with at the end of Last Stand. So that's when I was really like, oh, that's how this movie's going to end. And then it didn't go that way. And I felt like, I mean, the only reason I didn't like this movie as much as I wanted to is because I felt like there wasn't a big thing at the end. It didn't feel as emotional to me as the first, as a couple other X-Men movies have.
I thought it was pretty good overall, though. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. On Facebook, I said that I give this movie about a 7 out of 10. If I'm being generous, I'd probably give it a 6.5. And Chris takes that as I hated this movie, which I don't.
Well, I mean, it just means that it wasn't great. And to me, if it's not great, then it's one of those movies where you watch it once, and I didn't feel like it was that kind of movie.
I feel like if I watch it again, I might appreciate it more, but the problem I had was I thought that the whole scene where Magneto takes the baseball field arena, I don't know sports terms. It's where he takes that and he puts it around the White House or the whatever important building.
The White House or the Pentagon?
They went to the Pentagon in the beginning with Quicksilver, which was the best scene of the entire movie.
Oh my freaking gosh, I love Quicksilver.
But dude, that was awesome.
I was super worried when I saw the Quicksilver that's going to be in the next Avengers, and then I saw this Quicksilver. I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to turn this Quicksilver into a punk.
Yeah,
and I'm not
I was
gonna
like, he
him.
looks so stupid.
I was like, I'm going to freaking hate him. And then after I saw this movie, I was like, oh my gosh, Avengers 2 is going to mess Quicksilver up for me because I love this Quicksilver.
He was a lot cooler than I thought he would be.
Oh my gosh. The elevator scene, me and my stepdad were the only two, I swear, in the theater that got that. When he's looking like at Magneto and they're just kind of staring at each other
when
down.
he does that.
So you can bend metal. My mom knew a guy that could bend metal.
I love
and then that's
that.
all that was said.
That was
and me and my stepdad.
I was
laughed.
wondering how they were going to incorporate that, and I'm kind of glad that they just left it at that because I don't know.
That leaves your imagination open to fill the gap.
They don't have to go into this whole thing of like, oh, he's my dad, this is my son, what are we going to do? It was just
your father.
Quicksilver. It was just like a little thing that I thought was really funny, and it was pretty well done, and I really enjoyed that.
I loved that they slipped that in there like that.
And the special effects, the scene where he's running around the room taking down the guards, that was the best scene of the entire movie, hands down. But I don't know. I don't think I would say hands down because all the stuff with Blink was really awesome.
Yeah, Blink was such a cool mutant.
I think the fight scenes with Blink were the best, some of the best I've seen in any X-Men movie. They were so short that I wish they were longer and more, spread out. Oh, yeah, I wish they were longer and spread out more across the movie. But I don't know. I just really like the portal physics of when she creates a portal and then Colossus jumps through and he's like falling down from really high. Then she creates another one. Then he starts going horizontal and it takes a sentinel out. Loved it.
Speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out.
Exactly. But when Quicksilver was doing all that stuff, my friend Metroy Gnome on YouTube, Troy in real life, pointed out to me that in order to, because he played music, right? He put his headphones on and played music. So the music would either have to be really, really, really sped up as well. But then it's almost like if you compress something, you're going to lose a lot of data, right? So like if I take a 1 hour movie and I compress it to 30 seconds and I go frame by frame, I'm not going to get every single frame of that movie. I'm going to jump around to parts. So I wonder if that's the same for music where it doesn't play the full length. So I don't know.
Anything he touches goes with him.
Right, but that doesn't. But so when he speeds with Magneto, does Magneto also see everything in slow motion, or is it instantaneous to him? I would agree. I would say that it's instantaneous to him.
Well, my thought was he's not moving super fast. He just kind of everything else just kind of slows down.
Right. So right. So if he's doing that and he has Magneto, then Magneto would also see things in slow motion, but I don't think he did because...
Well, I thought the reason he had the music was to help him focus, because if he's moving so fast and everything, it's like he's like, moving too fast, can't focus. But with the music on, he's looking focus and he's, doing jokes and stuff.
And I agree with you, but I don't think the science is there. The science of a speedster, I don't think exists.
Well, I kind of thought the music was just for us. I didn't realize at first he had the headphones on at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he put the headphones on, press play, and then that. And
I love how he almost didn't move the bullet out of the way that was going to kill Magneto in time. He was just kind of like, oh wait, and then he pushed the bullets out of the way.
That was so cool. And all the stuff about people punching each other in the face and getting like wedgies and stuff, and that's so funny. I'm excited to see what they do with Quicksilver and Avengers, but I feel like they're not going to do the same thing because then everyone will be like, "You just stole that from."
That's very Joss Whedon. I think is going to be a much more serious character. It's going to be the whole "I am Maximoff" kind of thing.
And that kind of worries me a little bit because I really liked this Quicksilver.
Wolverine's claws.
I
don't understand those because at the end of the Wolverine, and this is assuming once again that everything is that one timeline because I wasn't explicitly told that it was a parallel timeline. So at the end of the Wolverine, he has his bone claws, but then in Days of Future Past, he has his adamantium again. And then at the end of Days of Future Past, he still has bone claws and he's going to be taken to the Weapon X program, but Stryker turns out to be Mystique. So then so
I was going to say something about that.
In the future, when he goes back and he's a history teacher or whatever, and he has his
we don't know if he has metal claws or bone claws because they never show us. So, but if Mystique was like there to save him from that Weapon X program, are we to assume that he never had metal claws? He never had the adamantium in him ever?
Or the events of X-Men Origins Wolverine happened, but it wasn't the real Stryker. It was Mystique being Stryker. Therefore, that movie happened.
So you think that Mystique, for some reason, wanted to put Wolverine through the Weapon X program?
Why wouldn't she? She's like a evil woman on the inside.
I wouldn't say
she's not a totally good person. I mean, maybe she did that because she knows what will happen to him. Therefore, she knows I have to put him through this. I mean, because think about it, they do everything in Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants for the good of mutants. You know, so if Mystique has that in mind, then why wouldn't she put him through that?
Because Wolverine is always opposing the Brotherhood of Mutants.
So, yeah, that's why Mystique does it to him.
So to pump him full of metal so that someday Magneto can control him easier?
Yeah.
That could make sense. I could get on board with that.
And I just thought of that just now, right on the spot.
And something that I was hoping was going to happen, although it would have been like a super cheesy way to end it, was when Magneto put the metal inside of the Sentinels. I thought when Wolverine came back too, then they were going to still be under attack, but Magneto was going to be like, the Sentinels are full of metal now.
That would have been interesting. It wouldn't have made sense because they were completely different models of Sentinels, but that would have been so cool if we got to see a lot of whatever people were doing in the past would start affecting the future more. That would have been a cool, and I needed, this is the thing I've been saying, is I needed more of the future, but we got more of the past. And I understand why. It's because those actors are younger and it's a first class sequel. So people, they're expecting more of the past stuff than the future stuff, but the future stuff was so cool that I just wanted more of it. So I don't know.
I am disappointed.
Yeah, but that's basically, that's where I'm at.
I figured out that Jean was going to be back before they even showed it.
Well, and I was you a smart person.
Yeah, I was super excited for myself that I figured it out. But I want to take you through the process that I got to that through. Because right before I went to see Days of Future Past, they were showing X-Men 3, The Last Stand, on TV. And so I had been watching it, and I remember the scene where she's laying on the table as Jean's come back as Phoenix, and Professor's got his hands over her head, and he's doing stuff, and Wolverine's like, well, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, when Jean was young, I put some blocks in her mind, that way she would not be able to access her full power, because I knew if she did, it would destroy her and she would destroy, countless people." He goes, "But now that I've put those blocks in place, it's caused her to have a split personality. So I don't know if the person in there is Jean or if it's this other personality is Phoenix." Well, at the end of Days of Future Past, he's standing there talking to Mystique, and he's come to the conclusion, he tells Mystique, "I've been trying to control you this whole time, and I realize now that I shouldn't have been doing that. I should have let you make your own choices. And by doing that, you will make the right ones."
So you think that he took that to heart, and so when he found Jean,
did not, he
let her make
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
My mind was just blown when I came to that conclusion, because I was like, wait, if he let Mystique control herself, didn't force her to do anything, and he did take that to heart, he wouldn't have put the blocks in Jean's brain, which means Phoenix would have never existed, and therefore Jean and Scott would still be alive. And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's one interesting way to think about that.
That was
Bryce,
my moment.
I've never been more proud of you than I am right now. That was good.
Well, just to capitalize on what Bryce's point is, whenever things like this happen in movies and there's continuity gaps and errors, I always just assume that something happened outside of the movie that they don't show that answers that question, and therefore my enjoyment of the movie goes from Scott to awesome.
It goes from Scott to awesome. I didn't hate this movie. I just didn't think it was the best.
Just keep poking holes in it, and then it's not going to fly.
Exactly. So don't have holes.
Poke holes in my X-Men kite.
Hey guys, interrupting the show for some more thank yous. We had a Kickstarter to start this podcast out, and I want to thank some of the people responsible for helping us get to where we are right now. This week, I want to thank Patrick Freeman and Alex Franklin from ECMMO Gamers. Now, I think we've talked about these guys before. We were on their podcast, and it was a super fun experience. Really cool guys, and you can also check out their website, ecmmogamers.com, as well as their YouTube channel, which is, of course, ECMMO Gamers, and Facebook as well, same thing, facebook.com/ECMMOgamers. They have podcasts and gaming videos and more, so go check them out because they're really awesome people, and I really do support what they do, and I just thought it was cool that we had two nerdy podcasts in the same area of the world, which was just awesome. So once again, that's ECMMO Gamers. Check it out. Thank you guys so much for helping support the show, and let's get right back into this episode.
I will say, I will say that one thing I missed from the older X-Men movies is I like the fact that the older ones had this feel of more of the school, but they've kind of really gone off of that.
Yeah, I always thought X-Men was really focused around the fact that it's Professor Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, and you see none of that in these movies, basically.
And that's something. When people ask me what my favorite X-Men movie is, because they do that all the time, they stop me on the street and go, Scott, I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. I don't really care. I just want to know what your favorite X-Men movie is. And I say, this is so random, but thank you. And then I just walk away really confused. But then in my mind, I'm thinking, I should have told him. It's X2. I think X2 is my favorite movie.
That's the one everybody likes.
And
Nightcrawler.
It's not just because of Nightcrawler, although that is my favorite opening scene in any superhero movie. I think that was just amazing. But it's not because of Nightcrawler. It's because of near the beginning when the soldiers are raiding the school, you get the sense of, once again, you get that school feel where there are children who are at risk here. There's a bigger thing than just this handful of mutants. It's hundreds and hundreds of mutants that are at the mercy of whoever breaks into this school. So you have to, I don't know. I like that feel of it where it's almost like a Hogwarts for mutants. And they really haven't touched on that in a really long time. And I don't know. I feel like that's something that they should do is introduce a new kid student mutant that the audience is supposed to attach to, and almost like a Harry Potter coming to Hogwarts for the first time. Do that for the mutant school, and then do something where at the end they save the day or something like that.
Well, they went there a little bit in First Class when Professor Xavier was training his new mutant students, and I really liked that aspect of the brand new First Class timeline because it opens up a lot of possibilities for you to see Professor Xavier doing this, and it creates a new character almost.
Yeah, and I like that, but again, I want more than just a handful of mutants. I want a school full of mutants. All of them can do crazy different things, and some are useful and some are just weird and not useful at all. But I want to see a variety of mutants, not to the extent of X3 where they just throw everything at you all at once and they're just like, these people are fighting now and this guy can regrow limbs and this guy can stick to walls. But I just like that feel of the fighting inside the school and exploring that whole thing. I like that. That's what I like about X2.
That's supposed to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they just want to keep making it bigger and bigger, and it's what's the next biggest thing that we can make Magneto levitate in this movie?
Well, I have to express a grievance over one thing in this movie, and it sort of builds on what you're saying. There's a game called X-Men: Age of Apocalypse. It basically, there's a part where you can unlock Professor Xavier as a character, and he fights, and he has all these cool energy powers, and I'm like, I want to see that. I want to see Patrick Stewart in an X-Men suit launch energy balls at people.
That was something that I was a little upset about with the future stuff, because I wanted more of that future stuff, as I was saying, but also we never got to see a lot of Patrick Stewart as Professor X. We never got to see, he's suited up and everything. Normally he's just in like a suit and tie, but he's in a full suit, never really got to do anything. The same thing with Wolverine. He was suited up in what is probably the closest we'll ever get to his classic yellow and blue costume.
I want to see that so badly.
But he never fought anyone with that in that costume. He just laid down on the table and had Kitty Pryde do her thing, which is another thing that they didn't explicitly talk about in the movie, which is how Kitty Pryde...
How does she have that power? Yeah.
Yeah. In an interview, once again, the only reason I know this is because of an interview and they say, I think, and people will correct me if I'm wrong because it's the internet. I think what happens is Kitty Pryde can use her abilities of phasing through objects to take someone's memory and phase it through time and to their past consciousness.
Or she could phase them through their memories. I don't know.
No, it was only their consciousness. In the Days of Future Past comic book, it was Franklin Richards' wife, who was a telepath, and she sent Kitty Pryde back in time because at the time period when this took place, she was the newest student of Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, and she had not yet learned to protect herself from mental attacks because that's one of the first things that Professor X teaches you, I guess. So she was the youngest student, so she was able to come into her own mind from the past. And that's kind of that feeling that I want where we have a brand new student who ends up being the one that saves the day. And that
sounds a little cliche to me.
Yeah.
Though.
But I like it. I like the cliche.
Well,
it's better than having Wolverine do everything in these movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a little cliche probably wouldn't hurt for this series.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you guys think about Wolverine always being... He's the only character that's been in every single X-Men movie.
Well, he's like the character that everybody knows.
He is Wolverine, if that makes sense. Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
When you see him, you think X-Men. You don't think any other role that he's ever played. He is the one actor that's really drawing
I
that.
think, first and foremost, I think Jean Valjean, the guy from Prisoners, and then Wolverine. That's what it is. It's guy from Prisoners, ? And then Wolverine. It's like question mark with a lot of circles around it. Like I'm unsure of what I'm talking about, which I am. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Cyclops, and I feel like he gets the short stick in all of the X-Men movies, which is another reason why I like X2, because I think it's the most action that he's seen in the movies where he fought. Mm-hmm. Wolverine's cool, but he has that thing of he's just a punchy power guy. Like, he flails and he slices and you have to get up close. But I like Cyclops because it's this is going to sound like I'm an idiot, but it's the truth. I like it because it's a visual power. And I like it being shiny and bright and in my face, whereas Wolverine is just... I felt like Wolverine also didn't get too many good fight scenes in Days of Future Past either.
Well, the whole movie was fighting.
What did he do?
He clawed people and stuff.
When he first came to the past, Wolverine. He needlessly killed people. That happened.
Well, I took it as he wounded them.
Speaking of that scene... something that happened that didn't make any sense to me is when he got shot by the bullets, he said, ow. And my immediate thought was, oh, he doesn't have the adamantium in him. So those things ripped right through him. And he's like, oh, man, this really actually hurts because I don't have any metal in me. But then the bullets fall out of his chest. And I'm like, whoa, his muscles just stopped those?
No.
What?
Well, he has a healing factor.
He has a healing factor, and you can't heal when you have foreign objects in your body. His muscles didn't stop him. If I had to guess, it penetrated into him. That doesn't mean bullets don't always all the time go all the way through you.
Well, his muscles stopped me, Bryce.
Yeah, they did. I could see Chris in theater. He just immediately
hot and bothered.
Yeah, he sat up in his seat, eyes wide. I was there with him.
Well, it was very shocking to see Hugh Jackman's rear end.
I didn't expect
that was pretty racy for an X-Men movie.
That was their way of getting girls into this movie.
Oh, sure, they can do that, but they can't do that for Jean Grey. You know, that would be too much.
Come on,
that
guys!
Would be like,
it's a kids' movie. We can only show guy butts.
That's offensive, man. I'm offended. That's maleism.
Maleism.
Yeah.
Yeah, standing up for men's rights.
Sexism.
Sure, it's definitely one of those. It's a word. We know words.
Okay, just by chance, and you probably don't know this, but do we know what he was doing in that scene?
I would have laughed if it was something that took place in a different movie. Like, it was something in X-Men Origins where he just wakes up. Like something from another movie where he wakes up, but they didn't do that. So I don't really know. They never really clued us in.
Yeah, because when the guys came in, they were like, you're supposed to be protecting the boss's daughter, not sleeping with her. And I was like, wait, what? Well, is he like a mercenary right now? What's going on?
Okay. I thought about that the moment that happened. And what I thought was, you remember, he's been alive for hundreds of years, so he must have taken so many odd jobs. It's not like he was just sitting, on his butt at home.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Netflix hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah. So obviously he was doing something,
Yeah, I mean, when you can't die, you're obviously going to put yourself into situations where you can get close to dying. Because for a couple reasons. Number one, I guess it's more fun to experience near-death situations or something. I don't know. Never had one. But also, I feel like it's responsible to put someone who can't die in a position where somebody else, if they took that position, they could possibly die. So he's taking dangerous jobs like being a bodyguard for somebody. Anyone else have anything to say? Bryce, did you tackle everything on your list?
On my list, I believe there is one more thing. Hold on. When Mystique ends up shooting Magneto.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
because
that was
it's
so
like,
cool. I love
and
that.
it rips through his neck. That went deep. Shouldn't he be gushing blood?
No way, bro. Missed
Like
all
he
the
should
vital.
be bleeding
Just a flesh
lot.
wound. It was through the side of his neck, not directly through his Adam's apple, guys.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, your jugular is on the sides of your neck, right?
Yeah, but you forget she's a trained killer, so
You forget that he's the master of magnetism.
No.
But that
What
wasn't
she
a
did
metal
was
bullet.
she aimed so much to the end of his neck so that he can be shot, and he's like, "Ow, that sucked," but not die.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah,
She managed to loop it right between his jugular and his throat. You know,
Your jugular is not on. Okay, this was not like his jugular, like all the way up front, like where his gills would be if he was a fish. This was like under his ear, you know, like back here where it's neck meat. You know?
exactly.
okay,
We saw
maybe I could.
We saw it in 3D, and so that scene where the bullet shoots through the neck and goes right towards the camera. I remember Chris looking at me like, that was a lot more gruesome than I expected for this movie.
It was a little bit.
I had an issue with the 3D, and that was that at my movie theater, because we went and saw it in 3D too here, but for some reason, and me, my stepdad, and my mom all noticed it, is the 3D was just a little out of focus. During the scene where Mystique, like, is pointing the gun, and you've got the barrel of the gun supposed to be, like, right in your face, there were two. Like, they started phasing apart, and we were like, oh,
I mean,
let down.
I mean, this movie didn't do anything for me, like 3D wise. I didn't see a need. I didn't see a need. Well, there was no scene. There was no scene where I was like, this was so much better since I saw it in 3D.
Yeah, there really wasn't, I don't think.
No.
And you guys don't like anything.
What was so better? What was better about the 3D than seeing it in 2D?
It's 3D.
So what?
It's cool.
Jump on the bandwagon,
more than
Chris.
No, it's just it adds another layer to the movie. It's like it's got some depth to it, so you're not just seeing it; you're seeing into the movie. It's the depth is there.
Scott and Chris are arguing again. This happens quite often.
You can see the great divide between us right here.
Well, it frustrates me
Physically,
when
we're
I see
separated.
people or when I know people that are in this genre of person, you know, like one of those comic book kind of people, and they don't like anything. It's like I have another friend, and his name is Alex, but I won't tell you his last name. He's a gamer, right? And he plays video games, but he doesn't like anything. And he's on Steam, he's on everything else, and he plays everything I play, but he hates it. And I'm like, why do you play video games if you don't like video games that much? Because you got to point out everything wrong with it. And when I have other people like you that like movies, I'm like, why are you into this business if you don't like anything?
I think it's good to have a sense of strong criticism, though.
But you don't like it.
I do like things.
Barely.
A 6.5 out of 10 is still a good movie to me, Chris. That is a good movie. I don't need to
see
rate it 9 out of 10 in order for it to be a good movie. I can say 6.5 out of 10, good movie, would see again. What, Bryce?
I don't get my counseling license for another year.
Shut up, Bryce.
I can't fix the situation yet.
Look, you're the kind of.
I'm sorry. I really liked it, and you didn't like it. And that made me upset.
I do like it. What are you not understanding? 6.5 out of 10 is good. That's still a good movie.
On Rotten Tomatoes.
It's,
I don't.
No, for you. Well, you're the kind of person I feel like you're either all in or not.
Well, it just. I mean, to me, if it was a good movie, it would be 7, 8, or 9.
6.5 is so close to 7, Chris.
Here's the way I think of it. 0 through 5 means that the movie sucked, but there was some redeeming qualities about it the closer you get to 5. Okay, when you're at 5 or 6, that means you generally didn't like it, but there was some things about it that you did, so you got to give it credit where credit is due. 7, 8, 9, and 10 ranges anywhere from, good movie to perfect.
Well, I guess my movie rating scale is is different because to me it's not necessarily like a mathematical equation of this is what I think this movie deserves based off of these merits. To me, it's like, what's my gut feeling when I come out of this movie? Would I see it again? Not in theaters, no. Would I see it again at home? Probably, maybe at a later date, like a year from now.
A later date, of course.
Well, no, I mean, like, for example...
Home release.
No, like, if one on its release date as a Blu-ray, would I go pick it up instantly? No. Would I watch it on Netflix? Probably not, unless there was like a special occasion where I wanted to watch them all. But I'm the same way with all movies, though. I think I don't really like to rewatch them unless it's Scott Pilgrim, in which case I'll watch it every day of the week. But
it's funny how that movie is the movie that you would watch that way.
That's 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it was a 10 out of 10 movie. Only because it's Scott Pilgrim, right? Yeah,
if a movie is only 10 out of 10 if it has Scott in the name. So I'm gonna have to bump back Dark Knight and Avengers. Yeah,
unless it's the Dark Scott and the Scots.
No, I actually prefer it to be not the Dark Scott or the Scott Knight. I just like it to be the Scots. Scott.
Or Scott.
Just the Scott. I like that.
That's so stupid.
This is the dumbest conversation we've ever had. Let's talk about Apocalypse for a second. The movie.
I was gonna say, are we gonna get to the post-credit scene?
The end of the movie had the post-credit sequence where it was a little boy forming all the pyramids.
I have to say, I didn't know what in the world was going on when I saw that scene.
And then later that night, you sent me a link which said
it was Apocalypse as a young boy.
Yep, and also that's not the actor they're getting to play Apocalypse in the next movie,
which is a lame choice in my opinion. But
yeah, I feel like they should have, I don't know, give us a little, not just a hint of the character of who's going to be in the next movie, but also give us the actor who's going to be playing that person in the next movie.
They should have did the Thanos thing where it was like obviously that's Apocalypse, but they had nothing else,
Yeah. Well, I feel like even like Thanos, they're getting the person who played him after Avengers. They're getting another person. So, but you can obviously tell it's Thanos because it was all like CG. So
yeah.
People said, "Who is the Purple Hulk?" It's not a Purple Hulk.
Well,
strangle you.
Did you hear what I said when the first time I saw Avengers? No. I was in theater and that scene happened, and then my someone next to me goes, "Where's a nerd to tell me who that was?" And then it didn't look purple to me. It looked red. Right? And so I was like, I had no idea who that was. All I saw, and I was so excited, I didn't know what was happening. All I saw was the chin, and I'm like, I guess that's some sort of Skrull, right? Because, I don't know, if it was purple, I would have instantly recognized it as Thanos, but it was very red to me. It was like Red Skull red in that theater, so I don't really know.
Scott, are you, or was it your roommate that I had the discussion about the orange drink sitting on the counter?
You mean it wasn't orange juice? It was orange drink?
It was orange drink, but I called it orange, and one of them called it pink, and I was like, no, that's very obviously orange. And they're like, no, that's pink.
It was pink.
It was orange.
It was pink. It was pink lemonade. It was pink lemonade, Bryce. I even picked it up from the windowsill and showed you. It was pink. Once again,
how do you confuse orange juice and pink lemonade?
Once again, the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this podcast. I knew I would be yelling a lot through this whole thing.
And then Wolverine had some pink lemonade. Oh, it connects.
Connect it back to Days of Future Past.
Days of Future orange drink.
My thing with the Apocalypse, I went to the internet and started looking stuff up, and they said, or from what I got from his backstory, is that was he abandoned or were his parents killed? I forget what it was. He was an orphan somehow, right? And then like
I'm not going to jump in. I'm going to let you just do it. I'm going to let you do you, and if you're wrong, I'll let the internet tell you.
Okay. Oh gosh, dang it! I don't like that. Please tell me if I'm wrong.
Continue.
Something happened, and he was an orphan, right? And then he was taken in by like a homeless dude, or like a shaman guy.
Go on.
I don't like this at all. But anyway,
I don't know either if that helps.
He trained him up, right? And then they put him in a sarcophagus with like alien technology that fused with his body, and that's how he became who he was. But we saw him with powers, obviously, because he was levitating giant chunks of the pyramid and putting it together. How did he have powers previous to him getting powers?
Because of movies.
It was a mutant.
I don't like it.
Look, I don't really care at this point. I just want an X-Men movie that has more of a school feel, and then I'll be happy. So if Apocalypse does that somehow, yay.
Throwing back to the old movies, my girlfriend told me when she went and saw it with her brothers that she let out a squee when at the end, when Wolverine comes back and he looks out the door to the left and he sees Rogue with...
Instead of Kitty.
Yeah, instead of him being with Kitty, he's with Rogue again.
That was a big kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say controversy, but that was a thing where they filmed Rogue to do something. I thought it was an action scene, but I don't really know. And then they just took her completely out of the movie because they're like, it's just slowing everything down. We don't really care. We don't care about Anna Paquin.
Who cares about Anna Paquin in the first place?
So
She's
then
not even a good Rogue.
Scott's not going to voice.
I'm not going to say anything. Moving on. No, and then I guess they came out and said that they're going to keep her in the movie. I don't know if that was the one scene that they had planned. Was her just like to do that, or if there was an action scene with her. But I mean, they've shown like photos of Rogue in like a fighty costume, but they never showed her fighting anybody in the movie. So I don't really know if that was just a publicity thing to get people to be like, oh, by the way, she's in this movie, so if you liked her, come see it. Or if they really just cut out her action scene or something.
Well, I mean, this is a grievance that I have with all comic book movies, but I like to judge these characters by how I see them in their video game counterparts, because usually when they appear in video games, it's very true to the character. There's a game called Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Mm-hmm. Rogue is in it, and that is the Rogue I've always wanted to see, because she's got this cool accent, kinda, and she's very, very tall, very, very quick. And Anna Paquin looks like she just got back from some sort of emo goth concert. And she's sad and stuff, and it's not cool.
Well, wouldn't you be sad if you could never touch anybody, ever?
No, because...
I wouldn't. I would love that. Nobody touch me, ever.
Whenever you see Rogue, like in the video game, whenever you see Rogue, she's fast, and she's got an attitude, and she's going to punch you in the face and kiss you because she can take away your health and stuff. It's cool.
So you want to see a fight scene in an X-Men movie where Rogue is going around making out with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Why not?
Starts locking lips with people, and they're all just laying on the ground.
Well, that's what she does. That's a move she has in the game where she's like, "Come here, sugar," and she kisses the character and takes their health, and that's so cool. It's like a middle finger, you know. But Anna Paquin just doesn't do that, and I'm like, that's so disappointing.
Can you blame them? That would be weird,
yes, I can
right?
blame
if
them.
She just went around making out with enemies?
Because she doesn't do anything. She doesn't have any action scenes. But in the game, Rogue is flying around the stage, and
Yeah, if they showed her permanently stealing people's powers, permanently stealing like super strength in flight, just so she could have something. Yeah, that would I would want more fight scenes from Rogues. But just as she is right now, as just a person that touches people and makes out with people.
Lame.
Yeah, I wouldn't see an action sequence with her. We got to end though. So, do you guys have anything else that you need to say about this movie?
I was hoping it would be much darker.
Yeah. I was hoping it would be like the definitive X-Men movie, and to me it wasn't.
Not physically darker, mind you.
No, we already had the 3D glasses on.
Yeah.
Bryce, do you have anything?
I guess the one thing that surprised me was the Sentinels, because I remember seeing the concept photos, and then when I actually saw them in motion and they looked like with the CGI and stuff, they looked very almost animalistic instead of robotic. It surprised me, and I was like, oh, these are really cool.
I thought the future ones were really creepy.
Yeah, they were honestly kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Because they're like invincible, and also they could like morph into whatever they wanted, and they were crawling around on the walls and the ceiling like demon possessed crazy people.
And I liked how gory it was too, that when they just used their big spear hands and they gore somebody.
People, they beheaded Iceman. They ripped
drew
Colossus in
him.
half
They literally did a whole drawn and quarter, him like an ancient torture thing.
It was. I loved it.
It was cool.
Yeah, I loved how they got away with that because they did that to the people that wouldn't have any blood. You know?
They were like, rip Colossus in half. Oh, he's just full metal. Doesn't matter. Throw him aside. No blood. Ripped Iceman's head off. Don't show any blood because he's 100% ice. We get away with it. Still PG-13, not PG. It's not PG.
So they're definitely not PG.
It'd be a pretty sad X-Men movie.
Also, Hugh Jackman's butt wouldn't be in it.
That's true. If it was PG,
or would it?
Only if it's a male butt. Only male butts.
Yeah, only male butts.
Oh boy, we've talked a lot about Hugh Jackman's butt.
I had to bring it back up.
Or not enough. That's the next question.
Oh my god!
All right, next podcast, 100% about Hugh Jackman's butt. I think we could squeeze an hour.
Can I
out
not?
of it.
No! Don't talk about my butt, man. Don't talk about my butt.
Is that your Hugh Jackman?
I was on the spot.
What?
Do you remember when after we recorded with Jesse Heyman, you said the next guest that you want to get on the podcast
is Hugh Jackman.
Is Hugh Jackman.
Mm-hmm.
Could we get a hold of him?
Yeah.
And have a podcast about it.
All right. If anybody out there knows Hugh Jackman, do your very hardest to get him on this podcast. That's our goal for the future of this entire thing. Is we need Hugh Jackman. We don't need anybody else except Gary Oldman because he's my favorite. So that's our review of Days of Future Past, and I did want to touch on something really quickly because I felt like it was a little bit overlooked. We got distracted by Quicksilver, and I was starting to talk about how there's a part where Magneto lifts up the whole baseball stadium and drops it around the White House. I thought that was not near the end of the movie. I thought that was like a good middle point for the movie. I don't know why I thought that. That's just what my brain told me. So when all of a sudden the movie ended, a little bit after that, I was like, oh, that wasn't nearly as powerful as I thought it was going to be. That's what I was talking about when I said I think it was missing that one big thing at the end. I think it's just because my brain was not ready for it to end. I did not, I guess I missed all the cues. I did not expect it to end at that location. I thought it was going to be something bigger later, but for some reason, I guess a baseball stadium surrounding the White House isn't big enough to be the end of a movie. I don't know. Maybe modern movies have ruined me for that. Who can say? Well, I would love to hear what you guys think of this movie. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave your comments in the comment section below. And if you are listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, then you can also tweet at us at NerdSync. You can email us. It's nerdsyncproductions@gmail.com, or go on our Facebook, find us there, and then write your review. I want to, talk about it. I want to have you guys more involved with the show. So any kind of cool facts or anything we might have missed, please let us know, and we'll work it in next time. And of course, guys, subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, and it only takes a couple minutes, a couple seconds even, to write us a review. So if you do that, it really honestly helps us out more than you could even possibly imagine. I'm talking with my hands a lot. I tend to do this. It doesn't matter. The point is, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the NerdSync Podcast. See ya.